Maybe it was a teacher who made you feel small. Maybe you stopped and life just kept going and the years added up. Maybe it just never felt the way you wanted it to feel and you weren't sure if things were ever going to change, if the problem was you. But here you are, still listening, still wanting it, still desiring, still yearning for it. And that tells you everything. Let me ask you a few questions. Was there a specific moment, a teacher, a performance, a comparison, an epiphany that made you feel like music wasn't for you? Did you ever walk away thinking it was final and then find yourself pulled back months, weeks, years later? Wouldn't you agree that if you could change something deep and come back to this on your own terms, with no judgment, no comparison, and no blocks, just you and the music, that you could start again? And what if the bad experience wasn't evidence that you couldn't do this, but evidence you just had the wrong context? If we haven't met, I'm EP Archer, and I help committed adults over 30 who play an instrument or sing create beautiful tone and unshakable confidence without compromising who they are or the music they love. Now, I have countless examples of students and adults that I have mentored and coached that have come back to music after a break. Sometimes the break is because there's a physical ailment of some sorts. Something happens with the body that changes, and it changes the way we are able to play music or the way that we approach music. And a lot of times that can feel super disarming. So whether it's an injury or it's just a change to our physiology that we weren't expecting, you come back with this idea that, hey, it's going to be like it was, or this expectation that, hey, this is how I do something. And that simply isn't true. And that can feel so disarming. We have this physical memory, this somatic memory, the way that things feel right in our body, and all of a sudden they feel different. But the good news is this: when you are forced to do something different, a transformation can take place. A change can occur that you were never going to make. A better technique, a better approach, more ergonomic that you maybe weren't going to look at if you didn't have this physical challenge. I've seen it time and time again, people that did not have a solid technique come back to the instrument with arthritis or different working hands, or coming to the instrument with a different type of vision or a different ear, a different memory, and it serves them in the long run because they get the opportunity to look at music completely differently. Now, some of us are coming back in that different context is just we had a bad experience. We played something as a kid or as a young adult or earlier in our music journey, and it wasn't received or it didn't feel good in some way. So we just had the wrong context. When you have a teacher that isn't positive for you or an experience that isn't positive, that's a context problem. That's not you. That is the problem. And sometimes, unfortunately, this context can make us feel like utter crap, for lack of a better word. Years of absence is life getting in the way. It's not your music getting in the way or your ability and your desire to play music. And none of that is evidence of what is possible now. The research on adult learning and prior negative experience is that adults who return to a skill after a negative early experience often outperform those who never stopped because they bring a critical self-awareness, an intrinsic motivation, and the ability to reframe failure as information. That's what I do for my practice and for my students. We're collecting data. We're getting scientific information. We're collating math data. We are not taking these failures and making them feel emotional or detrimental or terminatory. We are just taking the information and going, okay, now I know that I can move forward. Oh, the tuner says I'm out of tune. All right, let me practice note to note. You know what I mean? Because that is such a positive and healthy way to be. And it's funny because we do that in most other areas of our life. You know, we don't burn some food when we're cooking and go, I was never meant to cook food ever. I'm just not going to eat. What? Like, right? If you're trying to play basketball or soccer for the first time and you biff it, you don't say, wow, well, I can never play soccer again. This is the end of my soccer career. Well, no, you just go, wow, I don't know how to kick a soccer ball. Okay, is the side of the foot, is the tip of the toe? Do I have to jump when I kick it? Like, what's the strategy? How can I make my body work? And how can I make this feel good in my body? When I changed from classical to jazz, and I started learning jazz and jazz pedagogy alongside string pedagogy and the classical training that I had, the context was completely different, but it unlocked a new relationship with music. I couldn't just do the traditional violin exercises from old because they didn't work for jazz and the keys and the relationships and the shifting that I was doing. And that forced me to get outside of my comfort zone, and it created a transformative experience with exercise building, and the relationship with my body to the instrument, because playing in all these fretted positions and in flat keys and doing finger patterns and styles that I had never done created more tension than I had had with classical music. And that was supposed to be the opposite of my goal. And so what I did was to change the style, to learn from technique teachers, to gravitate toward information that felt right in my body, and to recreate my teaching methodology from the ground up with this new perspective. So coming back or coming to something different means you get new choices and new information. Being someone who's unfinished in your journey is such a positive. It brings more desire than almost anyone else in the room. There's something that you want to do better or differently or again, and it's never gone away. That desire has never left, and the desire is the fuel. It doesn't expire. It compounds. It swirls. It tornadoes, and it builds. And if you allow that energy to build and have a positive mindset and just make a simple choice to commit to it, nothing can get in your way. The fact that you're here listening to this podcast, the fact that you are still wanting to play your instrument after everything that got in the way or is currently getting in the way is not small. It's a big deal. And that persistence and that desire is your most valuable musical asset. The wrong context can't kill it, and the right one will set it free. So, how to apply this today in 5 minutes or less. Pick up your instrument. If you don't have one yet, sit with this imaginary instrument in your hand or play in the air bow, air posture, air strumming, whatever your instrument is. Close your eyes, feel and imagine playing something that you genuinely love. Not an exercise or a scale or anything that's in the shoulds category, but something that makes you feel happy, that puts a smile on your face. One of my new students just the other day said, well, why do you want to play that? And she said, it makes me smile. And I was, well, that's enough for me. I want you to smile. I want to smile when I'm playing music. So think of something that makes you smile and remind yourself why you are doing this. After that, write down one thing that from the past you believed that isn't true. Something maybe you got wrong about yourself, someone else got wrong about you, or the situation wasn't correct. One assumption, one comparison, one expectation, or one experience that just wasn't for you. Maybe you tried out an Irish fiddle competition and the stress of competition didn't feel good, but playing the Irish music does. Remember that whatever you're writing down has nothing to do with what you actually want. Name what you actually want. Maybe it's play with a beautiful tone. Maybe it's to play with others. Maybe it's to collaborate or sit around the campfire. Then set down your instrument and set down that reason you couldn't do it. Set down that block. Set down whatever got in the way. It doesn't belong in this chapter of your life. Whatever bad experience, bad teacher, bad situation that happened with music taught you something, just not what you thought. You want this even more, even if it's hard, even if you're coming back, because it's worth something. It's worth an expression and a connection and an authenticity that you can't get anywhere else. And guess what? The good news is you don't have to start over. You just start differently. change your mindset from music didn't work out to I just had the wrong context. I had the wrong perspective. Now I get a shift and everything can be different. I choose. So if this is your story, come find your people. And if you're a violinist, join me, facebook.com/group/adult violin, absolutely free. I'm in there every day. Just come and say hi. Everyone else, find me on Facebook under EP Archer, Instagram. I can't wait to meet you and hear about your journey because your best music is on the other side. And I'll see you there.